Big Sales. We appreciate each and every single one of you picking us to come here each and every single day because of the options that you have out there. And I say this, and I will continue to say this each and every single day. We thank you a lot, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that and how you guys come here each and every single day. Today marks really kind of the first day of the 2024 start of the season, does it not? It kind of starts it off for us here, right? This is when it really kind of you're moving full throttle, right? For 2024. Starts today. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'll be sitting here thinking to myself here, okay, I'm on the eve of my birthday. Don't just ask me what it's like to, you're floating around 60 years old now, and you're like, what are you thinking at? And I'm like, man, I'll tell you what, I'm very, I don't know how I'm looking forward to the birthday tomorrow, but we shall see how I'm looking forward to, how who tunes in on my birthday tomorrow as well. Okay, because should be interesting. We got Ice Cube tomorrow, by the way, on my birthday. Just so you know, Ice Cube's coming aboard on my birthday tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, and he's going to wish me happy birthday. So we've been fortunate enough over the years to get some great friends, so we look forward to that. I got to start this thing out here, and I was listening to the Sports Take guys, Tone and Rob, talking. And then I was listening to the radio guys on IP and The Fanatic and reading columns. And then I was watching national shows. Do you know what the conversation is about the Philadelphia Eagles right now? Do you know what the conversation is? It's not if you're going to win a Super Bowl. It's if you're going to win a playoff game. Look at how far that has dropped. You went from conversation just a month and a half ago on could this team win another opportunity at a Super Bowl like 17 to will you win a playoff game and who matches up best for that win? That's incredible how far this thing has fallen off the cliff. I was listening to Sirianni today on WIP. He's cringy at the mic. He's just cringy. He says some of the stupidest shit. He's just cringy. I mean, I don't know if they're feeding him this, if it's a script. I don't know if there's a screenplay writer that the Eagles have. It just seems stupid how he answers some of these questions. He's cringy at the microphone. And I'm going to hit on all these topics he had. They asked him the question about, have you had a conversation with AJ? Well, obviously, the Eagle organization had a problem with AJ not talking to the media. You know why they had a problem? Because he was calling them out without saying anything. He was calling the coaching staff out without saying anything. That is how anal the Philadelphia Eagle front office and coaching staff is, and paranoid. This is paranoia. They're paranoid. Hey, Big, they're paranoid. When you're paranoid like that, you're soft mentally. They are absolutely paranoid on what you think of them. Most great coaches and most great organizations, they tell you what it is. without saying anything, and they continually feed you the same bullshit each and every single day. Belichick's been 20 years of feeding you shit. 20 years. He don't give a shit. And I agree with Tone. Bill Belichick doesn't give a shit if he's getting fired or not. Nothing's going to change his resume. Nothing. You can do nothing to Bill Belichick's resume. He could lose for the next 15 years. 6 Super Bowl wins, most playoff victories of all time. He's one of the winningest coaches of all time. He drafted the GOAT, and he coached the GOAT on defense. End of story. End of story. No matter what you try to do, people trying to rip down Nick Saban a little bit. Well, you haven't won a national title in 3 years. Really? What is it for Belichick? Belichick hasn't won a Super Bowl in 5 years. You know what some of you have done to Belichick? You have lowered it to say, well, he hasn't really had a lot of winning in the last 5 years. If you don't win the Super Bowl, who cares if you're 12-5? What's the point if you're 12-5 or 5-12? What's the point? What's the point if you're 5-12 or 12-5 if you're not hoisting the Lombardi Trophy? What's the point? What's the point? Senor goes, then why fire Bill at all? Sometimes you need a new look. I happen to agree with Bill Walsh. I think coaches wear their welcome out after 10 years. I think after 10 years, it's time to move on, especially if you're not going anywhere. I think the locker room and sometimes the organization go stale. I absolutely think that. 10 years to me, like Walsh says, I think that's the limit that you could be focused, especially when you're a winning franchise like the 49ers were. Okay? Hey, who cares? I want to get to the topics. By the way, our friend Tone in the segment will be with us at 3:30. Philly 500 at 4:30. Fans' perspective. We'll get his thoughts. Does a great podcast that'll be with us at 4:30. Don't forget, like I said, tomorrow at 4:30, Ice Cube's going to join us. So let's get to the topic here. That interview today wasn't really a press conference. That interview today he did on WIP, Nick Sirianni. He was asked all questions about his job. I was actually shocked that they went there. And I'm wondering if the organization is allowing that. I'm wondering if the organization is beginning to plant the seeds to distance themselves from Nick. We're going to get to that here in a minute. But that'll be a topic here in a second. Hollywood, it is soft radio because that's the flagship of the Eagles. However, I thought they went down some lanes that I was kind of shocked they did. And I'm glad they did. Okay? Who has frustrated you more this year? When it concerns the Eagles, the offense, Nick Sirianni, or the defense? Did you catch the other coaches' press conferences? They sound like soft, analytical, robotic punks. Did you catch their other coaches? I did. I did. Marshall, I did. It sounds like prepared comments. The Eagle PR department feeds the local guys shit. They give them nothing. And they report more on the national guys because it's more important for Bob Lang and the PR department with the Eagles to have national perspective on how you look at the Eagles than the local guys because they control the local guys. It's very evident. Just in the coverage. However, no. I'm not gonna throw shade on the people that cover the Eagles. I'm gonna throw shade on the Eagles themselves and the PR department, because what they do is they control the local guys by fear. Okay? By fear. Unless they're given the direction where to go. And today I kind of thought I saw a little bit of that. Okay? I do want to ask you, though, what's frustrated you the most? Offense, Sirianni, or defense? Whew. Is that a tough question? The offense has been very frustrating. You know why it's been frustrating? Because it's the same shit I hear every day from Tone, Rob, local media people. What's happening here? It's the same people. It's the same comments. It's like Groundhog Day. Every Monday, it's Groundhog Day in Philly. Why is it not looking like that? You want to hear something? You were more effective last year in your passing game with less passing yards than you were this year. Do you know that? Do you know last year you were more effective in your passing game than this year? And you're going to have everyone have career years this year. You were more worried about putting numbers up and the illusion of putting numbers up than you were about actually winning ball games. There lies the difference between a coordinator and an OC who wants to win games and championships. There lies the difference. The offense is frustrating because you know why? Is this fair? Last year's offense was a championship offense. This year's offense is not a championship offense, and you're going to have better numbers than any offense in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles this year. How's that possible? Last year was a championship offense. This year it's not. It's not. You put Jalen Hurts in more positions to fail this year, and that's why the turnovers are high, is because you put him in higher risk plays than you did a year ago. Is that fair also? Jalen Hurts and his turnovers are a result of the inability to make the right play with situational play calling. That's why the offense stumbles the way it does. Because they're not quality play calling. It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook. No, I'm not blaming Jalen. He's a byproduct of the failure and turnovers. Just like Josh Allen was a byproduct of failure in the turnovers with Ken Dorsey. Don't you see it? When you have people that have a feel for the game, your offense is going to run smoother because you know why? You've got a proactive thinking, offensive-minded guy who's not just looking at the playbook. Here's Brian Johnson's problem. Brian Johnson looks at the current play. Shane Steichen looks at the play 5 plays from now. The play he calls now will affect the play he's going to call 5 plays from now. That's called being an offensive coordinator, an innovator. Every play you run sets up the next play after that. It's a chain reaction. You got a coordinator, and really on both sides of the ball, that call games like this. Let's run a 43 with a twist. Not thinking that if you're 3rd and 9, you don't want to be in that position because you're the worst third down defense in the league. They never put a priority on winning first down on offense and first down on defense, thinking about how third down would look on both sides of the ball like they did a year ago. They were smarter last year. Hence the coordinators getting head coaching jobs. You've got people in that building that are not freaking qualified. How could you put coordinators in a position, especially on the offensive side, that's not qualified when you're this close to winning a Super Bowl? Do you know what you've done to your defense? The offense has destroyed the defense. The offense had to carry this football team for 9 weeks before that apple got ripe. They couldn't do it. And basically, you Chip Kelly'd them. It's funny. I bring Chip Kelly up because now we go to Sirianni here. Chip Kelly and Sirianni have a lot more in common than Sirianni and Doug Peterson. There's a lot more similarities. The bullshit press conferences, the lying, the weird, like uncomfortable pressers. He's just weird. He backtracks. He apologizes 5 days later. He doesn't criticize anybody. Nick Sirianni's soft. Dude, if you got a football player on your team that's not getting it done, call him out on it. He's a big boy. He makes $25 million. If A.J. Brown's being an asshole, call him out on it. Don't put your arms around him. Hey, yeah, can you see Mike Tomlin putting your arms around A.J. Brown? I doubt it. But Mike Tomlin did that from day one. Don't, and people go like this, he won a Super Bowl, Sills, and he's got a ton of equity. He did that shit from day one. Dude, you think Mike Tomlin's a different coach today than he was the first game he coached? I do not. I do not. I don't think Belichick's any different. Maybe nuances in how to deal with players. Dude, Sirianni, man, like today, listening to him talk in his interview, his weekly interview thing, there's no question. And you know what? I would beg to ask this question. Do the WIP guys have to submit their questions and what they're going to ask Doug or Nick? It sure seems it. I'm gonna make. I have no insight on this. Just my years being in this business. It sure looks like the morning guys have pre-written questions to ask Nick Sirianni. Comes from the PR guy. I bet you they have to submit it. There's no way in the world that organization and the PR department, the way that they care about how you look at them, don't know what the questions are going to be asked so he could prepare for an answer. There's no way. They're too. And here's what I say. You know why I say that? Because the rambling answers he gives sound like something off a script. I'm listening to that. I'm going, they pre-prepared the questions for Nick. And that's why Nick's got those thought out questions like that. It's not really an interview. Sirianni's Chip Kelly with better manners. Correct. That's right, Marshall. He's got better bedside manner. But he's Chip Kelly. Okay, he's Chip Kelly. Shit, Rich Kotite had a winning record. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Rich Kotite have a winning record too in Philly? Right? Those questions sound pre-prepped. Just it makes no sense. And I'm asking the question, who has frustrated you more this year, the offense, Sirianni? And let's get to the defense. I mean, what are they doing with Sirianni? Now going to Matt Patricia. It's worse. Eagles need to put Howie back in the closet and trade for Belichick. That never happened, Latino. You're making it sound like they would do the right thing. Always come from this angle. They'll do the right thing that's in their best interest. Bill Belichick is not in their best interest. Anybody like those guys like Tomlin or Belichick or anyone with that kind of credibility would never be considered. They would never be considered. It's not in the DNA of that organization to hire people who push back. You fired a guy who pushed back, who actually won you something. You fired him. Dude, when I first started talking to Eagle fans and the NFL, and most notably to Eagle fans, I never realized how important that firing of Doug Peterson is. Because now it means that you're capable, like Jerry Jones is, of doing anything, no matter what the circumstances is. Do you understand something? Jerry Jones fired a coach who had just won him back-to-back Super Bowls. So you knew right then and there that Jones was capable of anything. And then 5 years later, the organization was not anywhere near the same. I think the Philadelphia Eagles last year took advantage of a very down NFC, playing the 31st worst schedule in the league with a very good roster, and it really made everyone in the organization feel good about themselves and the owner. So much so, they wanted more power and control and direction and responsibility in the direction of the offense. Quite frankly, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie and Nick got what they wanted offensively. The numbers are all up, but at the expense of the defense. They focused so much on one side of the ball, and they got it wrong because of the turnovers, putting Hurts in a poor position, not having a qualified play caller. They screwed the offense up actually more than they did the defense. Did anybody actually think that defense was going to be great with trash can linebackers? Did you actually think you were going to coach guys who were cut into being Lawrence Taylor or Ray Lewis? Did you actually think that? You were idiots when you were fighting me on that. The Terrell Edmonds of the world. Hey, I'll say this to you also. The defense, not only was it a poor move and not bringing Edwards back, it affected the entire linebacker room. The entire linebacker room was affected with not bringing Edwards back. And here, TJ Edwards, as he is as important. How many people would go like this? Let's do this. How many people think that TJ Edwards is a Warner or a Roquan Smith in Baltimore? How many people think TJ Edwards is that player? How many people think that? And by the way, look at the assholes in here trying to pretend that Edwards wasn't a factor in the number 2 defense last year in National Football League. Lying again. Blinded by the truth. That guy's going to have 500 tackles in 3 years of play. Chicago's playing better. No way? Well, let's ask the question here on this one then. Do you think the importance of TJ Edwards in the linebacking room was just as important as Warner or Roquan Smith? Isn't it funny? You take him out of the lineup, your linebacker core is garbage. Garbage. There's not one redeeming linebacker on your roster. He may not be Roquan Smith and Warner in San Francisco, but you know what he is? His importance in the lineup was just as important as those guys in their lineups. It affected the entire linebacking room. And you know why some of you will fight me in this? It's because I told you Nakobe Dean was garbage. He was going to be garbage because the Eagles turned him into a garbage man when they didn't have to. This is what happens when you rush development. You ruin a player too. Good organizations can ruin a player by putting him in poor positions to succeed. Okay? Nakobe Dean will never fulfill his destiny in Philadelphia, ever. You know why? There's one thing that is evident. And all of the scouting people said this about him. You know what it is? He's made of paper mache. He is not reliable. Durability has a lot to do with availability in your evaluation as an NFL player also. Then you go to the talent if the kid can play. It affected the entire linebacking room. And shit, get this. How many people think that Kaiser White sucked? You don't have a player on your team as good as him. You couldn't even replace the replaceable. Think about that. A guy you can replace, you couldn't. The defense became so basic that everyone was sitting at their home eating crackers and dip and calling the plays that they were going to run at offenses. Josh Allen embarrassed you on national television. He embarrassed you. Who had the call that night of that Buffalo Bills game? Who had the call? Remember what he would do? I think, was it Tony Romo? Was it Romo that had the call that night? All Allen would do is put a guy in motion. Safety would stop at the halfway point. He wouldn't go because playing zone. Allen knew where to go with the ball the whole time. Shit, that Eagle game did more for Josh Allen maybe than any game over this last 4-game stretch to get his shit right. He was sensational in that game. Josh Allen was sensational. It's sensational. I mean, so who are you more frustrated with? God, all three are horrible. Get this. Here's the problem with the offense. Why'd you fuck with it? Why did you mess with it? Think about this. When you knew you had things working in the right direction, why would you downgrade it? You downgraded a quarterback coach who's in his first year. You downgraded a coordinator in his first year. I mean, everyone around Hurts is an amateur, including the head coach. You gave him the worst coaching he's probably had in the last 5 years. He had better coaching at Alabama. Okay? And as for the head coach, I don't trust him. I don't believe him. I think he's a bull-faced liar. I think he's Chip Kelly. And, but here, I'll tell you what I think he is. He's Chip Kelly, but he's more of a con artist. Most coaches are con artists. He's this guy here, man. He'll look you right in the face and lie to your face and not have any problem with it because he's lying for the coaches. He's lying for his coaches and he's lying for his GM and most likely his owner. The guy's untrustworthy. We're going to get to a topic here on that with the front office and Sirianni here in a minute. Nick Sirianni's untrustworthy right now. He's got to go and talk to AJ about what? Sending a poor message that AJ may be sending out smoke signals that the coaches suck. Gee, dude, we already know that. But the Eagles are so in a panic right now in how you look at their coaches and organization that they're doing everything they can in damage control now to try to make it look not that bad. Dude, you don't have to look any further than listening to the coaches and the players talking after games. I mean, I've seen this game a billion times. I know what they're doing. You refuse to see what they're doing. You have so much love for this team. Granted, and I think it's great. But don't be blinded with your passion and not seeing what they're trying to do by pulling the wool over your eyes. I mean, everybody knows what's going on here. You're in a funk? What gave that away, Nick? Coaches don't talk like we're in a funk. Coaches talk like this. We'll get this right. You don't talk about where you are. You talk about where you're going. See, the Eagles and the coaches and the organizations in the present, they're not looking. You know why they're going to get beat in the postseason? Because they don't believe they're a postseason team. They're in the moment right now. They're in the moment. They talk like they're in the moment. It's not hard to see unless you're blinded. Or unless you are some people who get mad at messengers for pointing it out. How do you stop coaches from leaving? Michael, why would you? The sign of a great organization is that you not only develop your players, but you develop your coaches. How proud do you think Tony Dungy is that Mike Tomlin, Raheem Morris, Lovie Smith, Herm Edwards all became coaches off of his Tampa staff? How proud do you think he was? That all those guys went on to get head coaching jobs. And he developed all of them. I would never hold anybody back who worked with me because I was too selfish of a fact that I needed to keep my guys. I want my guys to elevate. Dude, if you don't have people coming after your assistant coaches when you're winning, you're not really winning. Okay? I don't know who to pick. Offense, Sirianni, defense has been more frustrating. Because Sirianni's a pawn in this. I'm going to say the offense. Because you didn't need to do anything to it. Shit, if you hired a coordinator who had the same kind of experience that Shane Steichen did, you'd probably be better off. You're going to have career numbers, and you're going to have an absolute meltdown. Hey, by the way, I got a message for you from the Cowboys. I got a text message from Stephen Jones, who's been on the program. He wanted to thank Eagle fans and the Philadelphia Eagles because he knows that they watch the show. thank you very much for losing the game against the Cardinals. He wanted it known and wanted to thank you for losing the Cardinal game. When they looked up, they couldn't believe it. It was a gift from the heavens. So congratulations. Not even the Cowboys believed you'd lose to the Cardinals. And they just want to thank you. Wow. You become a laughingstock in the league. You've become a laughingstock because of your coach. And get this, I don't really blame Nick for that. I blame the organization for their meddling and their control and their power grubbing and how they want to have so much power over people. What an uncomfortable situation to be involved in, where you have everyone controlling every move you make as a coach, and you have no autonomy. You really think that Nick Sirianni made that call to pull Sean Desai off of being a DC? Jesus criminy. If you believe that, you're all idiots. Hey, who do you think fired Doug Peterson? Howie Roseman didn't fire him. The owner did. You're not going to do anything without that owner signing off on it. He makes those decisions. He'll get his intel guys, analytics. To me, they're intel now. You know what I think that analytics crew is with the Eagles? I think they're internal spies for the front office. They're more spies. Judases. Who do you think the front office reveres more? The coaching staff or the analytics department that's been there for 16, 17 years? Almost all of them. Dan, do you think run defense will get better once Cunningham comes back? He's been our Edwards in a sense. He has. I'm going to give you a little bit of a statistic that Butch Davis and Dave Wannstedt and Jimmy Johnson gave me when they were running the Dallas Cowboys when they won those 3 titles in 5 years. This is what they said. One year they backed off of practice and the yards per carry went up. The next year they went back to having physical practices, 1 a week, especially as it got closer to game time. They saw the run per carry come back down again. Now here's the difference. You have to have young players and depth. Remember, there wasn't a salary cap then, so you could stockpile a shitload of guys, okay, and have great depth and keep those guys there for 4 years. Guys weren't turning over all that much. So there wasn't really a cap, and you had depth. That football team was loaded with all kinds of depth on it. And so they were able, and they were the youngest team in the league when they won those Super Bowls. So you afforded yourself the ability to do that. Now with the cap, it's a revolving door. The problem with the Eagles this year has been depth. Get this. This is what Howie did to the defense at the expense of the offense so the owner could get what he wanted in optics. Okay? You have no depth on defense, and you have limited talent in key positions. End of story. End of story. And you don't have coaches good enough to coach them. Facts. Worst defense in pro football resides in Philly. Worst. Are you beating the Giants? Boy. All right, let's get to the other topic here. How soon will it be that the Eagles will start distancing themselves from Nick Sirianni. Have the Eagle players and front office lost confidence in Sirianni yet? Have they? And by the way, the public comments don't matter. The actions of the players and ownership do. And the front office. How quick before you see Howie and Jeffrey distance themselves from Nick? You know, I was talking about with Angelo yesterday whether or not they were coaching for their lives, that coaching staff and Nick, these next two games. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know, but I'll say this. These two games could dictate whether or not that process begins. Because what I heard on that interview today with Nick Sirianni and the WIP guys made me think some of the questions that were being asked were fed to them. Were fed to them. Will these two games dictate the confidence level in Nick? He was asked the question if he thought about, I couldn't believe this question that was asked to him. Are you worried about being on the, I'm paraphrasing here, are you worried about being on the hot seat? How could a coach who a couple months ago, weeks ago even, and some of you in here were telling me is the greatest coach on the planet, already have conversation in Philadelphia where he's on the hot seat? Great coaches don't come off a Super Bowl and are on a hot seat. You know what kind of coaches do? Coaches with no power in the locker room. I mean, get this. Doug Peterson had would we not agree? Don't correct me if I'm wrong. At the end, Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman had an adversarial relationship, which you could make the argument maybe could have led to the fact that those guys wanted to part ways because, hey, it's in the owner's right to want to stick with the GM or a coach. Totally in the right to do that. And so Jeffrey Lurie stuck with Howie. But okay, but was that not they had a poor relationship at the end, don't you think? Nick Sirianni doesn't have a poor relationship with Howie Roseman right now. And now they're starting to talk, and you're hearing the whispers like you did with the Wentz whispers. This is so creepy, similar to how, Wentz is a locker room cancer. And I'll tell you one thing is fact. You want to start smearing a player or a coach, Philly's the place to do it. You start getting these whispers with no sources with their names behind it. Is Sirianni in the hot seat? Guys asking questions. 11 months ago, he's in the Super Bowl. Now he's on the hot seat? Well, who told him to say that? You don't understand. When you have the rights for a broadcasting of a professional sports team, the organizations are so anal about what you say. Do you know why that I wasn't in San Diego any longer doing and having executives on? 2 days earlier, they said they were going to have executives on my show. And do you know why I was critical of the Padres? Because I said, Padres are the worst organization since 1969 in the National League. And that's how I did it. They have been. They had me taken off. They just took a guy off in Coach Quintero, who was doing 9 shares. Number one in the market, 12 plus. Padres wanted him off because he was critical of Bob Melvin being let go. So when you say those things, organizations, okay, organizations, they come to you and go, that's not where we want to go. Okay? Look at this guy, 49er. Yeah, and then 2 days later, I was hired in Miami. Hey, 49er, 2 days later, I was hired in Miami. It was a BS story. The Bucks wanted me out. I was hired 2 days later. How could that be? And by the way, I was hired by the guy who runs the station in Philly. 2 days later, I was in a bigger market replacing Sid Rosenberg, who's now on WABC mornings. How's that possible if it was true? How's that possible? Just saying. How long is it before the Eagles distance themselves? How long? Sales, Howie reaps what he sows. Yes, men are not empowered. That's right. To make changes. You said it yourself. Nick is the face that Howie wanted. Correct. That's right. Okay? Do you believe everything the media tells you? Hey, my friends, thank you. Don't worry about that. That guy's part of my business. Okay? It's part of my business. They're the people that in my business. So don't worry about it. There's thousands of these guys. Most of the viewers and listeners in my career have been 100% supportive. It's the people in the business. Don't worry about it. Big Marshall, you think that's already started? Okay? You think that's already started? Let's do this. Can Nick save this? Oh, no, I know formally. It's all good. Can Nick save this? How about this? Can Nick save his job? You think this ship has sailed? Let me ask you this. What do you think has been more exposed in the last month? Sirianni or the team? What's been more exposed? Sirianni or the team? The team? I think the team is a reflection of the coach panicking. Hey, dude, if you're on a ship and your captain doesn't know where land is, and he's got your life in his hands, does that concern you? It's so easy for us to sit here and go like this. Well, I'm not going to let Sirianni run me ashore. It doesn't matter if you think that you're not going to let him. Unless you jump off the boat, you're going to run ashore because he's in control of your career. No matter what you say or do, you have no say in it. You have no say in it. You have zero say in your direction of your career. Only your performance. But if they're constantly putting you in poor positions to win, there's no winning. Becomes frustrating and you quit quicker. In my humble opinion, Sirianni, we knew the limitations in the ceiling of the roster prior to the season. Funny, we did. I wonder if they did. Sirianni has underachieved in every way. The talent on the offense has produced in spite of the coaches. And like I said, I heard Tone and those guys talking. And I've been pointing this out with all these career years. Swift career year, 2,000-yard receivers again. The tight end needs to have a little bit more consistency in playing. The O-line has underachieved massively this year compared to a year ago. And hey, stop that. They're not the best O-line in football anymore. It's not true. I'm sick of saying that when I see 77 yards rushing versus the Cardinals. I'm not listening to that anymore. Stop lying. You're telling yourself something that's not true. You're having a hard time coming to the realization that old line is old. Juergens is not healthy enough. Kelsey's lost a step. And Lane is a battered offensive right tackle who's still one of the top 5 guys. But that guy has lost a lot this year. He's been beaten. And quite frankly, the organization didn't do that O-line any help by getting those shitty blocking backs back there. They did them no help. Guess what they did this year offensively? They relied on Jalen Hurts so much in the O-line so much, they thought that they could get away with incompetence in the coaching. They really were arrogant. Jalen Hurts is having career years on both ends, good and bad. Why is that? Incompetent play calling. Can you imagine if he had Joe Brady? Those turnovers would stop. Maybe the fumbles because he runs more. I don't know. He runs as much. No, but he would look more like Josh Allen does right now. I'll tell you what. One thing about Josh Allen playing the way he's playing, I'll take Josh Allen in his turnovers the way he's playing versus Jalen Hurts in his turnovers the way he's playing. I'll take that guy. Buffalo can win the AFC. The Eagles might not beat the Bucs. They might not beat the Bucs. Remember how I opened the show? Month and a half ago, you were talking about Super Bowl. Now you're talking about who gives us a better chance to win our opening game and potentially only one playoff game. The Bills, if they win on Sunday, they're the number 2 seed. And it could be Bills and Ravens for the AFC Championship. And I don't know. Lamar's 1-3 in the postseason. The other guy's got a great record, but I don't know. That'd be quite a matchup. And you're talking, hey, by the way, do you have anybody that could cover today? Hey, the Bucs are different today than when you played them because you're different too. You have nobody that could cover Mike Evans. Nobody. And I think the New Orleans Saints would be a tougher cover. Kamara, the other receivers they have, I don't know. You guys make everybody look good, including the Cardinals. Think about this. You make the Cardinals look like world beaters. The Cardinals. Alvin Kamara, who covers him? Is that Cunningham? You know, I went back and I watched the 22. You need the guys get a chance to do it and watch and take a look at Hassan Reddick's face coming over to the sidelines, throwing his helmet when he dropped into coverage 3 times in a series. He don't want to do it. He doesn't want to be in coverage like Hugh Douglas didn't. Why are you doing that? Get this, you got players now that are being put in positions that they don't want to be. That's why you're getting lackadaisical ever. You know why? When you play defense, you have to have playing defense is an attitude. It's not a position. And you have got to have a mentality that you, every time you step on the field, are going to knock someone's dick into the hospital. Not put them on the sidelines. Take them out. Playing defense is an attitude. It is not a position. It's attitude. And the Eagle defense is soft because the approach is soft. You're basically putting Hassan Reddick in a gunfight with one bullet versus a guy with 6. He has no fighting chance. Let me think how they would think now. Because you've got to think like if you're going to, someone just asked the question, Sills, can this be fixed? Well, we've got to think like them, not us. Because most of you in here have common reason sense on what is wrong. Many of you, even the detractors that say stuff to me, even they know because they see it. Okay? They see it. Think like a nerd? Okay. Probably think like a CPA or an accountant. Okay? Can it be fixed? This is what I think they're thinking. And you tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think the analytics people, Howie and Jeffrey, Sirianni's not in those meetings anymore. I think they're holding closed door behind their back because that's who they are. Ask Doug. Ask anybody. That's who they are. Sean Desai decision tells you what they do. Remember something. Follow the actions, not the words. The words don't lead you to the truth. The actions do. So you got to think like them. I think, get this, there's so much back channeling right now. 2023 can't be fixed. I'm not sure they want to fix it. I wonder how close the situation came in 2017 when Wentz went down. Did they want to throw up the white flag? And Doug rescued him. That's what I question. With an organization that has a knee-jerk reaction the way they do and how they do business, you can't think they thought things were going to go the way it did in 17. After Wentz got hurt, how could they? They're nerds. How could they? They probably were like, oh my God, we lost our MVP. Doug looked at it like an opportunity. And there lies where Doug started getting equity with the owner. You can't think Howie Roseman, when Wentz went down at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, thought he was going to win a Super Bowl. How could he? What would lead him to that? I truly wonder how much faith they had in Peterson, Reich, and Foles. Come on, man. Every one of those guys except one were fired. They made a decision on Foles to trade him. Frank got a job, and Doug was fired. They did nothing to keep either guy. Let me just say this to you about Foles. I swear to you, I watched that game that day in New Orleans, And I remember telling the people that were watching the game with me, the guy wins this game, I'm trading Wentz. I don't care what he does. I'm trading Wentz. I'm not getting rid of a guy who gets me to 2 NFC title games, wins the Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP, and I'm not trading that. I am not only, Sully, did Nick rescue him, Nick and Doug rescued him, and they taking credit for it. Look at last year and how their road to the Super Bowl got there. They played a horrible, overrated Giants team. The quarterback got injured in the Niner game. They had no threat at all season long with that 31st worst schedule. They played really well against an outmanned Chiefs team and lost with the better roster. Think about that. You lost that whole season last year. Told us more than what people wanted to see it as. Okay? It was fool's gold. 70 sacks? Really? Right. The Eagles are back to earth. Back to earth. Played nobody. You know what? Here, and I'll say this to you. This year, they showed some really good guts by the players and some great heart. Because I can't dismiss this. You beat the Dolphins. You beat the Chiefs. You beat the Bills. You beat the Cowboys. You beat the Rams. You beat some good teams this year. But when you're a Super Bowl contending team, you've got to be trending in the right direction, not firing coordinators 3 weeks before the end of the year. Beat some good teams. I think it's because of Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been put in such a bad situation because they paid him that it is really evident when they paid him, the organization changed. Everything's changed since they paid him, protecting him, changing the offense and how, get this, you gave the guy $50 million and you hired a preschool teacher to coach him. I mean, don't you put the best people you can find to run your company? I mean, would Jeffrey Lurie hire the worst director, or no, the most inexperienced director to put a sitcom on? Would he hire an inferior guy who's never done it to make a movie? To run your company? To run your garage? It just doesn't make sense. But then it does if you think like them. What gives us the most control? Think about what they did fundamentally on how they've set this culture up that you guys call a great culture. The players could carry the culture. Get this. I have a theory also here, Tone, and everyone. We're going to talk with our friend Tone at the bottom. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to carry this culture thing, and I'm going to say this to you. The players were the culture, not the organization. But when the players found out who the coaches were, the culture changed. Am I wrong? The players changed the culture because they don't buy the coaches. And the organization and the media fed into that the Eagles have a great culture at the NovaCare. No, they had great quality players who were great leaders. And when those guys didn't buy in anymore, you think there's any coincidence that the culture is not where it was in the last 5 years. I thought that culture hangs around all the time. Good cultures are there. Hey, get this. Baltimore, last year, Baltimore wasn't in a good place. Well, they're back to being where it is because they empower the players. They empower the coach. John Harbaugh has a lot of power and autonomy in that building. Baltimore is so well run. It is without a doubt. And they came through the whole debacle of Lamar not playing, all of that. They embraced him. They moved forward. And now he's an MVP. Dude, I do think Nick Sirianni's coaching for his job these next 2 games. It's going to be an indication of what direction they're going to want to go. Okay? Hurt's big issue is the inconsistency to make the throws with anticipation. Nasty brings a great point up. Why don't you just go back to the game? Nasty, why don't they just do this? Why don't you just go back to the game film and watch what you did last year and do that? Why can't you do that? Why can't you go back to last year? You're not doing any. Get this. It's not like they're doing that shit that they did a year ago. And the situational play calling again. Hurts going to AJ. The way in the targeting. You know that he is the most targeted wide receiver in the league? Do you know that? What do you think a defensive coordinator and the analytics department in those other organizations like New York this weekend? Do you know what they're saying? 32% of the time, they're going to go to AJ. And so guess what the Cardinals did? You only had 47 plays. 30% of the targets went to AJ. Hurts has got to make tougher throws. Turnovers. That's what creates turnovers. When you become predictable. People overthink this shit. It's fundamentally right. Get this. The numbers don't lie. Because those, in pro football, numbers are trends. You know, people go like this to me. Dan, the Eagles don't have an identity. Yes, they do. Their identity is inconsistency. You don't want to hear that. That's your identity. You know, they never really just built an identity. Yes, they did. You're heading into week 18. That identity building. Hey, get this. No disrespect, Rob. There's no switch to be turned on. This isn't the Lakers and Kobe. Okay? It's one thing to flip a switch. You got 5 guys and you got Kobe and Shaq. When you have the Eagle defense, there's no flipping a switch on that. That's not a flip of a switch thing. I mean, you're not flipping nothing. Shaq and Kobe? Yeah, okay. Phil? Okay, yeah, you got me. All right. Yeah, I believe they could do that. They did. Dude, you've got to think how they would think right now. I wonder if they've surrendered. And I mean Howie and Jeffrey Lurie. Have they surrendered the year already? Because the way they act now, Doug Peterson must have felt it too after Wentz went down. And Frank and Schwartz and Doug, they dug in and rescued him. And all of a sudden, they popped their heads up. Holy shit. Look at the job we're doing. Doug probably went, we? What did you do in this process? Except panic. Doug probably lost faith in that front office. No, not the owner. Probably in Howie, because I bet you anything, Howie did not believe. That's why he had to get rid of him. That's why it was important to get rid of him and sabotage him so he could take full credit for it. And now with the appearance you guys got last year, get this, that's more disappointing than the 2004 Super Bowl and the 80 Super Bowl loss. Because you know why? You were the better team. You were the better team, but you were the poorly coached team. And everything in that Super Bowl on the sidelines with Nick has shown its head now. The conservatism, the analytics, the non-belief. Jalen walking off the field going, hey, this is why we pay you. And this is why we believe in you. You should always believe in me. There's something on that tea leaf. I don't believe Jalen Hurts thinks that Nick Sirianni and that front office completely 100% believes in him. I don't. The play calling dictates that at times. I think they've lost trust in Jalen a little. And Jalen has lost trust in them. Am I wrong? Sure looks that way. You got guys shaking their heads. Okay? You got guys shaking their heads. And you got a quarterback who doesn't have leadership at the top. He's the only guy and the only adult on the sidelines. Man, Doug Peterson totally is responsible for that Super Bowl in 17. And as good a team as he built last year, with all that luck he had, because it's not expertise. He's not Eric DaCosta or Ozzie Newsome. Those guys do it every year. Okay? Let's be candid here. This year's been a train wreck. They do it every year. Every guy they bring in or every guy they draft. I mean, look at the people that they draft and look at the guys that they bring in. They don't miss on Jalen Reagor. They hit on Zay Flowers, who I didn't really think that much of at BC. I thought he was a nice player at BC. I didn't think he was this dude. All right, I got to take a time out here. Incredible. I wonder how much faith they had after Wentz went down, because I see a lot of the same. These guys act the same. It just looks the same. Hey, we really appreciate everybody coming aboard with us, our great friends at Hooters, man, with all the great specials that we have. We are so proud to have them part of the Dan Sileo Show. Do me a favor, go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com for any one of our great specials. Lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3 p.m. Boneless wings. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. 6 items, $6. Seafood Sundays, half price, snow crabs, buffalo shrimps. Military Mondays are always sensational. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. How about Tuesdays right now for wings? Buy 10 wings, get 10 boneless free. Also, right now, my friend Tone is sending out the code word that you're going to see throughout the 4-hour program. You send us back your information at dansilioshow@gmail.com, and you may hear your name called on a football Monday. So we give you that opportunity. All you do is also go for more information, go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. My friend Tone will join us at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then also Philly 500 will join us at 4:30 Eastern time. So please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.